the County Industrial and Development Agency is June 22nd, 2021 at about 10:02. I'm going to do a roll call for attendance here. Jerry Henry, here. Hans Howard's not here yet. Stephen Thorpe, here. Jay Churchill, here. Dennis Rack is here. Brad Walsh. We have Brad on.
Brad will not be joining.
Okay, he was on the original list.
Was he? Okay, I apologize.
And Mark Odell is here. Here. Okay. So we have 5. So we need 5 or 6 for a quorum. 5.
We need 5.
5 for a quorum. 5. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we do have a quorum. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Michael Andalora, who is an intern in the finance department at SUNY Fredonia. Who'll be working in the IDA now on his internship, and I've heard good things about it. So welcome and enjoy the meeting.
Pleasure to be here. Yeah, well, welcome, Mike. And just real quick, so Mike's been working on pilot schedules, loan schedules. He's really been kind of filling in for some stuff that Kayla was doing while she's on her maternity leave. He's doing a great job. He's been a great teammate around the office. So welcome, Mike, and thank you for helping out.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you all had the received minutes of the 25th, 2021 meeting. Is there any questions about those? If not, should I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes have passed. So new business. First up is solution regarding international ordnance technology, and that's going to be presented by Carol Rasmussen. Carol,
Dennis, I don't mean to interrupt, but Hans is now joining.
okay. All right, so let the record show that Hans Howard has joined, so we now have 6 members at the meeting. Okay.
Okay, you want me to go ahead, Dennis?
Yeah, go.
We need a motion?
Carol.
Okay.
Well, why don't you present it first and then we'll get a motion.
Okay. So we have a request from international ordinance, and it is a loan, which will come out of the LTEC or the ABA fund. The resolution does reflect that. This is Tammy Snyder, who has owned international ordinance since 2002. They're still metal stamping, including machine gun links, heat treat.
This meeting is being recorded.
Metal finishing. There's welding and assembly services done, and she has a lot of government contracts. Tammy has requested under the loan and $250,000 in working capital, and she also has requested machinery and equipment, $120,000 and $598,000. So the total request is $337,598. The equipment loan is to buy an endo generator for their heat treat line. This will reduce expenses. Actually, she's been replacing the belt monthly, and it costs her about $20,000 a month to replace the belt. It holds up production, so she's very much in need of this endo generator. This will also increase her sales to $50,000 per year. It'll stabilize production, including the working capital is to pay for rent, payroll, keep her employees on. She has 28 employees. 7 will be created, and 7 creation is due to contracts that she has on hold now. She did she did lose a purchase order for $400,000 after everything was made due to an export license that was stopped during COVID. And actually, there was another $3 million that was going to be booked. So she has new business. She has stripper clips. It's a new product, a new company. This will create more jobs. There's M28 links. They did business with them a year ago, and now they're looking to come back for $2 million in linked business and 2 link gauging. So due to COVID, due to the COVID-related issues, which she hopes this loan will help and pick up everything in late 2022. Are there any questions about?
Talk about the loan.
I'll talk about the collateral.
Yeah, Carol, just mention that the loan committee met as well and discussed.
The loan committee did meet, and good point. As the loan committee met, they were in favor of this. They recommended it, and the loan committee did also recognize that Tammy has been through some things. Since 2002, her ownership, she's jumped hurdles. She's been a member of the community. She owns 36% of the business. The other owners are small percentages of her family members or family owns another business in Jamestown, and they did applaud her on how she's kept this business going over the years. Now, I should talk about the collateral because Key Bank has agreed with her bank to let us take first position on the position. Otherwise, so the rest of the collateral will be a subordinate position. And all the other accounts receivable, furniture, fixtures, machinery, and equipment, inventory, and all assets of the company. And also, she will give her a personal guarantee and a life insurance assignment. So at this point, are there any questions for me concerning the loan?
Oh,
So
I
I
guess.
just wanted to talk for a minute. I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, obviously, the loan committee must have approved this, and they've looked into the details. So, I mean, it's not much that we really have to question if they've already gone into the nitty-gritty, right?
Well, they did go over the financials, and there's not a lot of cash here, but there's a lot of need for it. And Tammy has had loans with us in the past. She is current on all her loan payments with us and with the city. And
I just wanted to add that the reason the approval is for both the All-Tech Fund and the EDA CARES Act is we need to make sure that we're spending the $2 million of the CARES Act money by June 30th of next year. So we've approved about if we approve this loan today, we'll approve about $10.7 million in CARES Act. We already know there's $150,000 from a previous loan that won't be needed. So we're just making sure that we're going to be lending enough and approving enough. And the EDA has given us permission to use all principal and interest payments up until June 30th as the same terms as the $10 million. So that's the reason why we have this listed either or on the resolution.
How many are they employing in Jamestown?
they have 27 now. They probably, due to COVID, lost about 9. She'd like to bring those people back with a new business. She's very confident she can bring at least 7 back. They work 2 shifts.
All right, any
I'm sorry.
questions? Not John, could I get you to move resolution A1, please?
That would be me. Okay. We go by Jay and John, so I'm confused sometimes.
Look at my screen and it says John. John.
Okay, that's right. Resolution 06-22-21-01 ETA loan for International Ordnance Technologies.
Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, by John, seconded by Gary. We'll do a roll call vote. Gary Henry.
Aye.
Lon Dower.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Mark Odell.
Aye.
And Dennis Rack, the chairman, votes aye. So we have 6 votes in the affirmative. The resolution passes unanimously. Great.
Thank you.
All right, next up is a number of resolutions and topics regarding Sheridan CSG 1 LLC and Sheridan CSG 2 LLC, and that's going to be presented by Rich Dixon and Nolan Tyler. If you guys would like to do that, please.
So previously we had authorized due diligence resolutions to look at the environmentals and talk about these 2 projects that are coming next. We worked closely with the town supervisor, John Walker and Sheridan, who wanted us to proceed with these projects. So we are bringing to the board today some final resolutions, deviation resolution, and also we're having a deviation hearing. So I know I see that James Vedran is on. Hi, James, would you like to talk briefly about these projects today?
Hey, sure. So just to briefly introduce myself in case for anybody new here, my name is James Vedran. I am a project development manager for Dimension Energy. We are a solar developer headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, with an office in New York City. So as Rich mentioned, we proposed 2 separate solar projects, Sheridan CSG 1 LLC, which is a 4.125 megawatt AC project, and Sheridan CSG 2 LLC, which is also a 4.125 megawatt project. They're both located at Worley and Harrington Road in the industrial zone in the town of Sheridan, on approximately 90 acres of land. We have spent a lot of time doing the environmental and permitting diligence on both of these projects, full wetland delineations, agency consultations, as well as the seeker environmental review with the town of Sheridan and the special use permit process through the town of Sheridan as well. We received a seeker negative declaration for both projects in early May of this year with the town of Sheridan Planning Board, and then also received special use permit approval for both projects in late May of this year with the town of Sheridan Town Board. And then we are requesting a pilot agreement with, as well as the community host agreement with the Chicago County IDA. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
All right, hearing no questions. Millen, would you want to talk about the deviation hearing and the next steps, resolutions on each of these projects, please?
Happy to. And again, this is going to be, we're going to repeat this twice, one for Sheridan 1, one for Sheridan 2, because they are technically separate projects. I guess in a second, I will ask whether or not there are any members or representatives from any of the affected tax jurisdictions that would like to comment either way on the deviation. As you will all see in your package, attached to the deviation resolution was a copy of the letter that went to all the affected tax jurisdictions, advising them of the possible deviation. As everyone acknowledges, we tend to deviate for solar. In this case, it is $3,800 per megawatt. And was just mentioned, we take notice of the fact that there will be a separate host community agreement with the town, and we understand that would be for $1,200 per megawatt, both increasing at 2% per year. Technically, the host community agreement is with the IDA, but we take notice of it when negotiating the pilot. One last comment when we get to the approving resolution. As we just mentioned, the town sent out lead agency notice letters. The agency agreed. Therefore, when the town passed their negative declaration, that is binding on the agency. So we will not pass a separate secret resolution because the town has already done so and bound us by their determination.
Millen, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to let everyone know that Brad Walters has now joined the meeting.
Yeah, sorry I'm late, guys. I was on the phone. Time got away from me.
Unless there's any questions, I would ask if there's any members or representatives from any of the affected tax jurisdictions that would like to address the IDA regarding the Sheridan 1 project. Okay, I guess maybe Rosie, can you confirm that we have not received?
I'm sorry, Millen, you cut out, but if you're asking if I received anything in writing via email, no, I have not.
Okay, good. So I'm going to call the hearing to a close. And Mr. Vice Chairman, I think we're ready to go to the pilot deviation resolution, if you are, or if there's no other questions from the board members.
Bill, and I had one thing I forgot to ask James. James, I wanted to know, you talked a little bit about the project. Can you please address the decommissioning plan that you have in place and what the town required of you on that?
Sorry, can everybody hear me? I was on mute.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Sure. So the town required a decommissioning plan as well as decommissioning estimates, and they accepted both in order to get approved for the special use permit. So our decommissioning plan basically spells out how we would return the property to its current condition after the end of the useful life of the project, or if for some reason the project became inoperable. So basically, to put it in a nutshell, it's really to return it to the current condition of the property. So ideally, if we did decommissioning right, and it's laid out in the plan, it would look very much similar to how it currently looks. So that includes taking out all of the pile-driven racking that will drive into the ground for the modules, removing all of the modules, taking out all of the electrical components and disposing of anything properly. And that also includes recycling materials where possible. In addition to that, we agreed to put in a decommissioning fund for each project of $175,000 each. So total $350,000.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
Vice Chairman, that's all I had.
Okay, Vice Chairman, just a couple of things to add, if I could, please. Thank you, James, for spelling that out, because there's a lot of confusion whether they're pile-driven projects or concrete projects. We'll see mostly pile-driven going forward, as I know, and that's on the decommissioning plan. On the commissioning plan, Miller, maybe you could answer this one. We're jumping ahead to the final resolutions, but I thought this would be a good place to ask. In the lease backs, do we have the details in there once again for the 1 year measurement verification performance in this one?
I apologize, Mark. The answer is yes. Those documents have not been drafted yet, but pursuant to standing instructions, as I understand it from the board, though that same provision will be in the leaseback agreement. So there is feedback and reporting at the 1 year mark.
Very good. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, Gary, could you read resolution B2, please?
Resolution 06-22-21-02 Sheridan CSG 1 deviation approval resolution.
Could I have a second for that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Gary, seconded by Mark. We'll do a roll call vote. Gary Henry.
Aye.
Hans Sauer.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Jay Churchill,
Aye.
Brad Walters,
I'm gonna abstain just because I didn't hear most of the conversation.
okay. Mark Odell,
Aye.
and the chairman votes aye, so we have 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention. The motion would pass. So next up, Stephen, could you read resolution B3, please?
Resolution 06-22-21-03, Sheridan CSG 1 final resolution.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, so we'll give it to Hans and as the second and for reading it. Hans got his hand up first. He hit the button first, so we're going to give it to him. Any further questions or discussion? No, I'll do a roll call vote here. So Gary Henry.
Aye.
Hans Auer.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Mark Odell.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye, so we have 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstain, so the resolution would pass. Millen, I think we're back to you for a clear deviation.
Okay, this is obviously almost identical to the last one. Very similar letter, went to all the affected tax jurisdictions, the same pilot structure. So I would ask if there's any members or representatives from any of the affected tax jurisdictions who would like to address the board on Sheridan 2. Thank you. And Rosie, can you confirm you've not received any written correspondence from any of the affected tax jurisdictions regarding the pilot for CSG2?
I have not.
Okay, let's call the hearing to a close. And again, unless there's further questions or comments from the board, Mr. Vice Chairman, I would propose moving on to the pilot deviation resolution.
Any other questions before I go?
Mr. Chairman, just another quick one for Millen, please. Just curious. I mean, not that I'm not complaining one bit. I'm glad the seeker is not before the board on this one. But do you think that's going to be a growing trend to see the townships take that upon themselves going forward?
We are seeing it more. I think it depends on each town, quite honestly, you know, how sort of sophisticated they are. But quite honestly, I think that more towns are becoming more active. And as you asked before, I think that a lot of them want to ensure that there is a decommissioning plan in place. And obviously, Seeker is the best place to do that. So, you know, I obviously don't speak for the towns, but my answer to your question is yes. I think I do see this occurring more with the solar projects.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right, Mark, could you read resolution B5, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 06-22-21-04, Sheridan CSG2 deviation approval resolution.
All right, could I get a second, please?
Okay.
Okay, so moved by Mark, seconded by Stephen. We'll do a roll call vote. Gary Henry.
Aye.
Hans Auer.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Brad Walters. Mark Odell.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye, so we have 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention. The resolution passes. So next up, we have resolution. Got to see who's next on the screen here. Hans, could you read that one for me, please?
Sorry, where are you? Is it 5 or?
6, please.
Okay, sorry. Resolution 06-22-21-05, Sheridan CSG2 final resolution.
Second.
Okay, moved by Hans, seconded by Mark Odell. Do a roll call vote. So Gary Henry,
Aye.
Lon Dower,
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe,
Aye.
Jay Churchill,
Aye.
Brad Walters. He's gonna abstain.
Yep.
Okay. You're gonna abstain, Brad?
Yes.
Mark Odell?
Aye.
And chairman votes aye, so we have 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention. The resolution would pass. Okay. So next up, we have Rack Solar LLC presented by Christine and Millen Tyler. This project I have involvement in, so on advice and counsel, I will be abstaining from voting on these resolutions. But with that said, Christine and Millen, would you please present this?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The RAC 2 solar project is being developed by Saturn Power, and today we have with us Pat Goodell, who I'll introduce in just a moment. This is a 3.5 megawatt AC solar farm to be built on 35 acres, located at 10035 Christie Road in Fredonia, which is located in the town of Pomfret. The pilot application that we received requests real property tax abatement for 25 years, which is typical for the solar projects that we've been reviewing. Sales tax abatement for 18 months, mortgage recording tax abatement, and this would be a deviation from our uniform tax exemption policy, consistent with the other small commercial solar projects that we've been reviewing. I'd like to invite Pat Goodell to introduce yourself and provide some background about your role, your company, and further details about this project.
Hey, thanks, Christine. Good morning, everyone. I did pass along, Christine, to you and Rosie a copy of a very short slide deck, so I don't know if one of you could maybe pull that up.
I'll pull it up right now. Take me just a second.
Thank you. So a quick walkthrough on the overview of the project, as well as an overview of myself, and as a larger, bigger picture overview of Saturn Power, the organization I'm representing.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Great. So next slide, please. So very quickly, just looking at the idea of just the outline of my presentation, looking at the idea of, as I mentioned, who Saturn Power is, where we've been in terms of what we've done. Again, just a very high-level summary of each, then get into some of the details as it relates to the RAC 2 solar project that I'm here discussing, and then just kind of the meat and potatoes of the idea of both the interconnection details, where we sit with that, as well as where we sit with the permitting status, and then just outline the next steps, and then open it up for the floor for any questions that may be as it relates to this request. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Saturn Power, who we are. Saturn Power is a renewable energy developer. We specialize in mid-sized solar as well as energy storage projects. When I say mid-sized solar, we are looking at, typically we will do projects in the 5 to 10 megawatt size. So we are looking at the idea of, this one just fits a bit under, the RAC 2 solar project fits a bit under what we typically do, but we are looking at projects that would take up typically between 35 and 40 to 50 acres. We are a privately owned company, and we do have both an in-house engineering team with over 500 megawatts of design and optimization experience. We do also have in-house experience or expertise in both construction management, project management, as well as operating and maintenance experience. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are a privately owned company. We are located just outside of Waterloo, Ontario in Canada. I'm technically right now about an hour away from Buffalo, so I'm very close to the border and very close to the site. We do have 50 power professionals that have, the range of experience: development, engineering, construction, financing, and operating maintenance. I am one of 4 people that work on the New York team, on Team Saturn. we are looking at the idea of, we do have 2 folks actually based in Buffalo, and we've sent them out a number of times for various town approvals and what have you. We do have a North American renewable energy focus. We cut our teeth in the Ontario market. We do also have experience developing projects in New York State, as well as we do have 3 energy storage projects totaling about 65 megawatt hours and over 100 megawatts of operational solar projects today. We have a 14-year track record of working with communities, other developers, and financial partners. Our 2 co-founders, they're both former farmers. So they initially started their business after a very successful agricultural stint, and then they decided that solar was the way to go in Ontario. So they saw an opportunity there, and they took it. So they do though still have a strong, I guess, a strong inkling towards working with communities, because they recognize that the communities will make these projects a reality, as well as that they do have a strong belief in the idea of being good stewards of the land. The fact that I just got off the phone at 9:30 with one of our co-founders, and he was saying that we need to, impress upon everyone that we do want to make sure that these lands will be taken good care of. So it's a message that I hear almost on a daily basis when I'm developing solar projects. Next slide, please. So just looking very high-level summary of RAC 2 solar project, we are looking at it. It is located on Christie Road. It's as Christine mentioned, it's a 3.5 megawatt AC project. We are looking at the idea of it's going to be using single-axis trackers with bifacial modules. The thing to know with the bifacial modules, as with all modules that we use, there is an anti-reflective coating on that. So that does significantly reduce any glare associated with that. We do recognize the idea of not just the Federal Aviation Authority, the FAA, but as well as also municipalities do have a strong feeling towards or a strong hesitancy to having panels that may have some glare associated with it. So the panels that we do use do have that anti-reflective glare right built into the modules themselves. We are also going to be participating in NYSERDA's Community Distributed Generation Project, which is a 25-year term, and we are thinking that the project is going to be a 35-year project life, and we've entered into a long-term lease with Mr. Rath. Next slide, please. The interconnection details. So we did submit an interconnection application with National Grid back in the middle of 2019. We did receive the results back in late 2019. At that point, we decided to progress this project. We have made the first of the payments in February of this year, and we are looking at the second payment, the 75% of total cost to be able to connect to the grid will be made in mid-July. After we make that payment, we are looking to set up a meeting with National Grid for both a kickoff, as well as just to work together to finalize a construction schedule for this project. Next slide, please. In terms of the high level, some of the permits that we've done to date and some of the ones that are still outstanding that we're working through. We do have the site plan approval from the town of Pomfret, which was approved in April. We do also have the secret negative declaration, which was granted in April of 2021. We also are currently in the progress of we're working through the special use permit with the town. We reached out and we received approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as it relates to any wetlands on site. We also have reached out to and heard back from the State Heritage Restoration Office, or SHPO, received a no effect letter. The project will not impact any heritage or any cultural resources. We are also in talks with the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets as it relates to the fact that some of this land is zoned agriculture, and so they're impacted with that. As I previously mentioned, we are using the panels with the anti-glare, so the idea that the Federal Aviation Authority has been notified, has been informed about our project, and then in light of that, they have given us a determination of no hazard as it relates to their concerns. Lastly, we did send out project details and project specifics to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife as it relates to any critical habitats or any endangered species. And they've come back with a letter as well stating that there are no critical habitats on the site. So we've also received their blessing as well. Next slide, please. In terms of next steps, over the summer, we're going to finalize the permits and approvals. As I mentioned, two of the ones that jump out are the ones with the agriculture and markets, as well as with the special use permit from the town of Pomfret. We are planning construction start as of now in fall of 2021, with a greater plan of achieving commercial operations sometime in the summer of next year. This is a very high level summary in terms of what we typically would see with the construction. That in a nutshell is my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Anyone have any questions for Pat?
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your decommissioning plan and how did that vary in the town of Pomfret, let's say, from other towns, and what did you propose and what was accepted and what do you have in your plan?
Certainly. So similar to the previous solar developer, we are looking at the idea of that we will restore the state to its original state after the 35-year project lifetime. We have had the town agree to just a little over 100,000, I believe it was 105,000 decommissioning bond. We did get that estimate both from CCIDA as well as we did have a third-party engineer verify that those amounts were appropriate for a project of this size. And we are looking at the idea of one thing that the town asked for and that we are making a commitment to is recognizing every 5 years just as a refresh. If the idea of if changing conditions, do seem to become apparent, then we would reassess that estimate based on those conditions at that time. So we're not locked in for a 35-year estimate at year zero, essentially.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat, this is Hans Auer. Thanks for your presentation. I heard you mention a couple times the anti-glare technology that will be part of this project on the panels. Is that unique or is that sort of standard operating procedure for other projects that you've seen developed in our area? Is there anything special about your anti-glare technology that wouldn't be something that other providers are already using?
It's not. Thank you for your question, Hans. It's not necessarily special so much as it's just something that we are aware that municipalities and jurisdictions are going to be aware of that. So when we do speak to module manufacturers, we do actually specifically call out in anticipation, if we are going to procure from you, do you offer the anti-glare coating? Because it is a case of that we'd rather get those questions up front and then know in terms of like as a go, no-go decision with those suppliers. Not every module manufacturer will offer that, but it does seem to become more and more standardized as it becomes more and more of a pressing concern.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions, if I could, please.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation. I appreciate that, particularly the permitting status slide. That's good to see that all that's out there, particularly SECRA. Just passed earlier this year, and I'm really glad to hear, Christine, you'd probably guess I'd ask this one if it's in Sheridan or Pomfret or anywhere around our airports, is the determination of no hazard determination from the FAA. That's great. I would ask, though, that you please just for situational awareness, just make Rob Helmeter aware of the project, and especially once it's complete or passed down the road, so that he'll have that on his radar, literally. And quick question for you, while we have you, and I'm just going through your website. It's a nice site, great team. Just one thing that caught my attention. Community solar is relatively small, so I'm assuming we're not utilizing any form of storage on this project. Is there any storage plans in this one? For buffering?
No, there's not. We would be upfront with that right from the get-go, and all along we've planned, this is a standalone alone facility.
Yeah, they hit the size. I would imagine that makes a lot of sense. I do see on the site, though, under storage, you've got about 64 megawatts, or just shy of 65, putting output out daily. How long have you had those in? If you just, this is germane to other conversations, but since we've got for here, just curious as to how long you've had them in operation and any issues.
To date, no issues. We are looking at, I think, the most, or the earliest storage facility that we built was in early 2020. So we are looking at the idea of coming up on a year and a half. And we do have another one that's our, one of our pride and joys is up at a nuclear power plant in Ontario here that couples well with the idea of we've got a battery power, so it does, I guess, provide some backup power that they'll need, so they can get away from the idea of the diesel generator. But all said, our storage assets are roughly about a year and a half in operation.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Pat, I'm curious about the battery storage you have at the nuclear plant. So you're only using that as a backup to the diesel generator. It's not used for peaking times or anything like that when the power plant can't produce enough?
To date, it would just be seen as a backup power, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Christine or Millen, do you have any more to add before we go through the resolution?
Thank you. Pat, I see another slide. Is there something additional we should be reviewing, or does that complete? I see a couple more slides. Or does that complete?
I'm happy to touch on this. Sorry, Christine. I'm happy to touch on this. I do recognize, almost in anticipation of another question that we typically see, is the idea of screening. So the idea that we recognize that these panels at its highest will be just a little over 10 feet tall, as demonstrated by this tracker profile right here. So we are seeing 10 feet, 3 1/4 inch. And then I guess just to give everyone, just to sleep a little easier, is just the idea of that we have incorporated a landscape plan. So if we go to the next slide, we are looking at the idea of the panels at the highest, like I mentioned, just a little over 10 feet. We are anticipating the smallest trees at maturity, which I'm told by a tree expert will be between 10 and 15 feet, 2 to 3 years from now. So the idea that the trees, the shortest trees will completely cover the panels at its highest point. We are looking at the idea of that it is, for us, it is also very important to be able to incorporate a landscaping plan to remove any, I guess, uncertainty, or to remove, some of the concerns from the general public as it relates to be able to see the site itself. It is going to be very well screened, as we can see all the way across the site, that there are trees of varying heights, but like I said, at its, at their shortest, they're about 15 feet at maturity.
Thank you, Pat. Do you have anything more to add, or should we continue on here? Pat?
I'm good right now. If there are any other questions, I welcome them. Otherwise, I'm happy to just stand for the next few minutes.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I guess I have a couple of additional comments. Astute readers will see that this project is RAC 2 Solar LLC. And just for full disclosure, there is a RAC 1 Solar LLC, and that's the town of Sheridan, but that's not ready to come before the board yet. So, please don't be surprised when hopefully next month we come together for the board for that one. Let's see. I'm not sure whether or not the town of Pomfret, when they passed their secret resolution, named the IDA as involved agency. And Mark, you asked that question earlier as to whether or not we see that. And I think that this might be the kind of exception when the town does their secret prior to the IDA really getting involved. And of course, that is what the staff has as an operating principle. They want to make sure that the town is okay and supportive of each of these before they come to the IDA. So it may well be that the town doesn't, check all the boxes and name the IDA as involved agency. So, and I think that's the case here, in which case we would just pass our own secret resolution. And I guess lastly, my comment would be, I think that we have changed the name of the resolution that we're about to pass. It used to be a preliminary approval resolution, and I think that there were members of the public who sort of got confused by that, thinking that we were giving some approval to a project. So this is now now called a preliminary due diligence resolution. We're not approving anything. It's just the board members think that there's enough here that the staff and council should go out and do the due diligence. We'll hold a public hearing, we'll do a deviation, we'll, get all the necessary information that we need in order to bring it back to the IDA. So, substantively, nothing changed in the resolution, but we changed the name of it to, I think, better reflect what the intent was, that we're just doing due diligence rather than giving it sort of even preliminary approval.
I was gonna bring that up in my.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you brought it up now. No, I'm glad you did. And again, certainly even after some of our meetings, the media would print the articles as if the project had been approved. And I suppose you might surmise that because we called it a preliminary approval. But really what it is, it's kind of giving us the go-ahead to do the due diligence. So we thought it was much more appropriate to call it a due diligence or preliminary due diligence resolution versus a pre-approval resolution. So that's what we did. Thank you.
Ellen, would you like to comment on the due diligence agreement also that would be attached and is referenced in the preliminary due diligence resolution?
Millen, you're muted.
Can't see that.
Sorry about that. Same sort of agreement that we typically add to what was what we used to call preliminary approval resolution, and it authorizes and instructs the agency to go and conduct due diligence, and most importantly, the applicant is agreeing to pay for whatever the costs are involved in doing that going forward. So it's much the same agreement that we typically do. We've changed the name of it, but the intent is that's our first contractual agreement between the agency and the applicant. And it covers our due diligence process, the due diligence expenses.
Thank you, Melanie. Are there any questions?
All right, if there's no further questions, then we'll move to resolution C2. And Brad, could you read that, please?
Brad, you're muted.
Try that again. Resolution 06-22-21-06, RAC 2 Solar Preliminary Due Diligence Resolution.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
So moved by Brad, seconded by Gary. We'll do a roll call vote. Gary Henry.
Aye.
Hans Sauer.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Walter. Mark Odell.
Aye.
And Chairman abstains, so we have 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention. So, very good. Thank you, everyone. Next up, it looks like we have the Executive Director CEO update. Mark, that's you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman. Appreciate it. I won't take very long here. I just want to mention 2 things, and they really kind of fall under critic. As you know, we created the Partnership for Economic Growth, which is under the umbrella of critic, and we've been working feverishly here, especially Nate and his team, and we're happy to announce that we were awarded a $1,050,000 grant from the Ralph Wilson Jr. Foundation, and that little over $1 million will be used for matching requirements for grant applications we'll be submitting, primarily to the CFA. It'll also be used for some of the sub-consultants we have, and also for staffing. So that's over 3 years. So we're really excited about that. It's been a lot of hard work, and really the Nate and Monica and Christy and Jeanette, they all need to be commended. for their hard work on that. So wanted to let you guys know that. And then lastly, wanted you to have some idea of the consolidated funding application projects we're going to be applying for through the partnership. And I'll be very brief here. There's 6 of them. One is Site and Infrastructure Development Program. We're going to be applying through ESD grant funds. The applicant will be the IDA. We don't know what the total project cost is going to be because we're currently in the process of identifying a site or sites, and there's an 80% matching requirement. So we hope to get that money from the county capital projects funding, the IDA, and other sources. The Chattacoin River Activation and Development Initiative, we did a Chattacoin River Strategic Business Plan I talked about, where we identified a number of projects that need to be undertaken to activate the waterfront, especially down in the basin behind the National Comedy Center. And we worked with consultants to develop that plan. It was finalized about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we've identified some projects from that we want to get funded through the CFA Department of State LWRP funds. Critic or the City of Jamestown would be the applicant. The total project cost would be between probably $500,000 and $1 million. The matching requirements are 25%. And so we're working with the City of Jamestown to potentially use some of their American Rescue Plan funding for the match, and we might also put in some matching money. It's to do things like remove debris from the basin, put in boat docks, signature gardens, buoys, that kind of stuff, the market channel. So those are the types of projects we're looking at for that. Project we're calling Housing Development Toolkit. This would be Empire State Strategic Planning and Feasibility Study monies. The applicant would be Critic. Total project cost is $60,000 and 50% match. And it's really looking at our housing market in the county and identifying what the needs are in various areas. And really it's to help us to work with developers. We get requests all the time from developers, and they want to understand, well, what is the housing market there? And we really don't have a good answer for them. But we know there is, at least we believe that there's demand for certain types of housing in certain areas, and this will help us to define that and provide some other information that is useful to developers. We're also looking at doing a plan for consolidating code administration and enforcement. It's really a feasibility study. And right now we've got a lot of code enforcement officers that are working part-time for multiple jurisdictions, and it's really not consistent, and it's something that's been talked about for a long time. So we're really doing a feasibility study to look at what that might look like, consolidated code administration. It's through the Department of State. The applicant would be Critic. Total project cost $80,000 with a 50% match. We're also looking at a Chautauqua County craft beverage marketing initiative, which would really be looking at not just the wine, but the beer and adult beverage tour and how we market that and what that looks like. That would be through the Market New York program. The applicant would be Critic. Total project costs around $62,000, and there's 25% matching requirement. So these are some of the projects that came out of those 5 work groups that have been working within the Partnership for Economic Growth. We've all identified these various projects, and so these are the ones that we're chasing after this year. And there's other projects that we're pursuing, but aren't going through the CFA. So these are the consolidated funding application projects for 2021 coming out of our group. So, does anybody have any questions on any of those? Comments?
stuff, Mark. Really good stuff.
Thank you. So that's all I really have for today.
Okay, well, thank you. And again, just thank you guys for continuing to work to bring resources to the county. So we can improve it. That's what we need to do. So thank you very much for that. Next up then would be the treasurer's report.
Rosie, could you put my report up, please? Thank you.
Yep.
Before Rosie does that, there's two numbers we need to talk about. That's 4 and 0.5. So 4 is the number of games the Mets are in first place by, and 0.5 is Jacob deGrom ERA. So I won't belabor that point anymore. But I know Greg Peterson's on the line. He agrees with me.
Let's just talk about the number one. That's the standings of the Jamestown Tarp Skunks, first place in the division. So carry on, Rich, carry on.
I should have known the Tarp Skunks would get in. Just to show the balance sheet, we are going to be redoing the budget now at the end of June, halfway through the year. We have a pretty good idea what our EDA CARES Act revenue will be looking like. We also have a pretty good idea with the Ralph Wilson $1 million, how much of that will be spent. So we'll redo the budget to reflect those two items. The other grants probably wouldn't be awarded until November or December, right, Mark, for the CFA. So that would be into next year should we get any of those. Everyone is in a very good, strong cash position here. I would point to the bad debt reserve for the EDA CARES Act fund. Again, we've agreed with the accountants that we're going to write off 30% bad debt, and we'll talk about those loans in more detail when we get to executive session. Can you go down a little more, Rosie? So again, the IDA a little bit in the hole this year. We'll talk about that when we go to the next page. We have a meeting with this bond payable on Calcott Street. We're going to have a meeting with the COVID finance team from the county to discuss possible disposition of Calcott Street, and Mark's going to talk about that a little later in executive session. Next page, Rosie. Just a little to the right, Rosie, if you get the whole thing on there. Okay, so just looking at some big numbers here that we hadn't budgeted for. The grant income is from the loans we received from the CARES Act this year. So that number's way up. Again, we'll have to change the budget according to that. Every one of these funds is in pretty good shape here right now. You'll see the IDA has in the hole at this point. But we're having a great month in June with our fees. Let's go to the next page, Rosie. And we'll talk about that right here. So on the variance, our application and administrative fees, $47,000. Actual year they budgeted $375,900 for the year. We will recognize over $500,000 in fees in the month of June. So we're going to be right back ahead of budget and on track there. Our grant income other, that is the EDA CARES money. As it comes in, we recognize it as revenue. And then we, of course, bad debt 30% of it as we make the loans. So we'll adjust our budget for that. Everything else in the revenue section is basically timing. Our interest income is up because we are getting interest and principal, or interest payments on our CARES Act loans now. Scroll down to the expenses, Rosie. Payroll and benefits, a little bit under. We have 2 employees on family medical leave. It was interesting. The IDA did not have to sign up for family medical leave insurance if you were a profit. But we thought if our business community had to do it, we should do it as well. And actually, we've had 2 employees take advantage of it, and it's been a godsend for both of them. So, in hindsight, we're glad we did that. As you see, our bad debt expense is also high here. We'll adjust that when we do the new budget. Everything else is basically timing here. It is continue to get through COVID. So that's my report, Mr. Vice Chairman, unless anyone has any specific questions.
Any questions?
No.
If not, could I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Dave.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. So it looks like we do need an executive session based upon comments I've heard. So I'll try and get this right, and Millen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like a motion to move into executive session to discuss financial matters resolving certain companies and the possible